Thank you, Corey, for organizing this. You are, without a doubt, the biggest American Pie fan in the world.
Hey guys, I am known as Moviedude18 on Twitter and Instagram, but my real name is Corey Davis. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but I moved out here when I was 18 with one goal in mind, to make movies. And I've recently been holding a lot of these reunions and anniversaries of 90s films like 10 Things I Hate About You and American Pie, but right now I'm in Beverly Hills at my favorite little hotspot, the Charles Adekoff Screening Room. So I'm here in the projection room. This is pretty much where my love of film started. Anything that ever came afterwards, these events, everything that I've ever done was based upon a projection room. I loved movies as a kid, but when I first saw a projection room and I first saw the film going along the walls and running through the reels, it was magic. It still is magic. And that's why I'm always pro 35mm. When I moved here to LA, I actually had a friend that I knew. His name was Thad, and he actually worked at the local independent cinema back home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was kind of bullied a lot and wasn't very social, and so I used to hang out in the projection room all the time and watch these movies and run prints and splice and build prints and sit on a little stool to like start projectors and stuff. And he actually moved out here when I was about 13, 14, and I've stayed in contact with him ever since. And so every once in a while I come here just to kind of look at a booth, see some film, have a little bit of fun. So with these events, I started thinking about the 90s and the nostalgia and how in almost 20 years, box office is failing. It's at its worst. These films are not reaching an audience. Everything's giant robot movies or remakes or superhero films, and those are cool. But I kept thinking about these 90s films and whether they're mystery films like Copycat or they're teenage films like 10 Things I Hate About You, these movies kind of just don't get made anymore. I do have a BFA in screenwriting. The one thing that I always wanted to accomplish was I wanted to write movies that I loved, movies that really aren't getting made anymore, movies like Pitch Perfect and Perks of Being a Wallflower and Fault in Our Stars. I mean, these movies had very low budgets, but they went on to make, hundreds of millions of dollars in cases. Like Pitch Perfect is a worldwide phenomenon. My kind of goal with these events when it first started was just to kind of have fun. And I'm still having fun, but it started with just something really silly. It started with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. I owned a film print ever since I was a kid. And when the opportunity came, the New Art Theater reached out to me to use my print because Fox didn't have one. I actually knew the Red Ranger from MySpace. And then we trickled over to Facebook, and that was really my first big event. He agreed to come do like a Q&A, but it ended up being cool, and it was something that I really wanted to do, but I was finishing up as a script reader. And then the opportunity came. I actually knew the co-writer and director of American Reunion. His name was John Hurwitz, and his co-writer, co-director Hayden Schlossberg, because American Pie is, my 90s nostalgia. It's probably my favorite comedy film. I grew up with an older brother that was 10 years older than me and a sister that was 15 years older than me. So my childhood was sort of backwards because I was getting to see movies like American Pie in a theater, or movies like The Faculty or I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream 2 and 3. And my sister would take me to all like the girly ones, like She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You. And so American Pie has always had that kind of the ultimate nostalgia for me. And then I realized the 15th anniversary was coming up. The Power Ranger event was months before this. I hadn't done anything public or, a showing. And I kept showing up to these theaters for all these other reunions that weren't really done in a way that I thought was fun or cool. And I started realizing this is my calling card. That should be me up there. So many moderators I feel like ask really dumb questions. And my goal with these events was to start doing them, and I didn't know how much of the 90s fans would come out. You look on BuzzFeed right now, and everything's promoting, the 20th anniversary, the top 20 films from 20 years ago. And it's like, they're not even talking about Star Wars right now. They're talking about these movies from 20 years ago, like Empire Records and films like Power Rangers and Mortal Kombat. And it's amazing to see that you can show up to midnight crowds. Like some of these events, like at Power Rangers, we had pretty much 300 people there in costume, dressed up, paying a full price ticket to see a movie that came out 20 years ago, but we can't get a sold out audience for a film these days. And at first I didn't know where I was going, and I started with American Pie. And I got a hold of John Hurwitz after a couple years of just kind of social interaction, and I asked him if I could host this, do you think that you could pull Jason Biggs? And he pulled Jason Biggs and Tara Reid, Eddie K. Thomas, John Cho, director Paul Weitz, and a few more, and it sold out in advance, and I was blown away. I mean, most programmers spend 2 or 3 years, you know, trying to get a sellout, and right out of the gate, my first event sold out. How many times did you have to screw a pie?
Not enough.
And I also kind of wondered, why did you go with apple pie? I feel like cherry would make a little bit more sense. And so we had a lot of fun, and it went so well that John and Hayden also created Harold and Kumar and asked me to do the event, and I'm like, well, let me check my schedule. Of course, yes. And I was blown away. We ended up pulling almost 13 or 14 people from the cast there. 10 Things I Hate About You and American Pie are like my top 2 teen films, so this is like, it is a competition.
I think we can. What's the number one? What's better? What do you like more?
I'm sorry, it's American Pie.
But thanks for playing. Good night.
And so when I did Harold and Kumar, I kind of came up with the idea of, let's book more. Let's see how far this can actually go. I think that the moment that these events changed, where I realized I'm doing something right, was actually The Girl Next Door. I worked on the 10th anniversary event of the film, and director Luke Greenfield actually came out with Chris Marquette and Matthew Weissy to do a Q&A for the film, and that's a passion film for me. That actually was a high school film that came out while I was in high school. And I think Girl Next Door is a perfect example of a teen film that just gets it right on all levels. And after the Q&A and the movie, Luke left, and I got an email the next morning telling me how he doesn't see people like me in the industry anymore, and he misses people like me. And it's very rare that after so many years of dealing with people in the industry, he was very invested in me and said, if you ever need anything, please let me know. And I think that was when I was reassured that, wow, you know, I put myself into these events. I don't try to make them bigger than what they are. I show up. A lot of these casts, in fact, all the cast have come and worked on their own time to really make it happen. They greet all the fans. They have a lot of fun. They share some stories, and they're smiling and having a good time just like the fans. Before I even did Harold and Kumar, I did the 25th anniversary of The Wizard. I set all these dates up. Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, Scream 2. I invited creator Don Mancini, who is a childhood icon, and Darren Stein, the director of Jawbreaker, to Harold and Kumar to kind of see if, you know, they liked the vibe of what I was doing. I got Facebook messages from both of them telling me that that was one of the best Q&As that they have ever seen in all of their years of being in LA, and that we are going to reach out and get whatever we can for your shows. We're in for Bride of Chucky and we're in for Jawbreaker. The next thing I knew, 2 days later, it was like Jennifer Tilly, Corey Cienega, Alexis Arquette, Nick Stabile. There were some really funny moments in Bride of Chucky. Like, I was trying really hard to get Don to talk about Chucky 7, which is very tight-lipped. He's working on Hannibal right now, but he's also writing that script, and we got a couple little secrets about it. And Jennifer Tilly, she just kept getting up there. It was like 1 in the morning, and she kept telling story after story, and it was like, I'm not cutting her off. And Bride of Chucky was one of those films, too, I didn't get to see in a theater, whereas American Pie and Harold and Kumar and 10 Things I Hate About You, I got to see in a theater. I didn't get to see these. With Jawbreaker, it was just me and Darren just talking back and forth about the process of the film, and I found out one of the coolest things was that Rachel Lee Cook was originally supposed to be Rebecca Gayhart's part, and Darren said no, she's just too sweet to play the part. And then 10 Things I Hate About You, which probably ended up being my favorite event of them all. We ended up having Joseph Gordon-Levitt come. I found out that morning that he was coming. To have him a part of the Q&A, and David Krumholtz, and you know, who came back from Harold and Kumar, it was insane. When People Magazine and OK Magazine and Us Weekly were all covering that event, I felt justified in what I was doing. I just did Power Rangers again, kind of went back to the beginning, and I got a hold of Steve Cardenas, who was the man. We worked on this event together for about 5 months for the 20th anniversary. I have my man Steve Cardenas here, who came and was my very first guest ever at one of my events. But we got it bigger this time because we got Jeff Pruitt, who was the second unit director and also the stunt coordinator for the film. And then we have Mark, who actually did the props and worked on all the helmets and the suits before they went off to Australia to actually film the movie. We had more people come out. We were like 8 tickets away from selling out. Jeff, on his own time, went and dug through all of his footage. He edited it down himself and played this unseen footage of when the Rangers were training and when Mariska Hargitay was there. At Power Rangers, I think we had probably the funnest audience we've ever had. We had people in costume. Every event, I keep seeing more and more people show up. More and more fans follow me on Twitter. I'd like to go bigger. I'd like to get more and more people. If I can start paying rent with these and make this my daytime job, that's what I want to do. Because then I can always write. And writing is my primary. This is my secondary. As a writer, as a filmmaker, as a host, there's nothing more rewarding than when someone comes up to you at the end of a show and tells me something like, dressed as a Power Ranger, saying, I never got a chance to see this film on the big screen, and what you did tonight was amazing and awesome, and I want to thank you for doing that. And that's why I do these, because these movies are movies that I love, I grew up with, they're movies that I want to make. My goal as a filmmaker is, in 10 years from now, have a film and have someone else host the 10th anniversary, or have someone email me instead of me emailing like I did Paul, and tell me, this movie changed my life, this movie made me feel better, these movies remind me of what it's like to kind of just have fun with a film or to be happy. This is actually, please don't boo me, but this is my favorite film of all time. I don't care, it's my favorite film, not yours. So I just got out of Mortal Kombat, you guys. We had 300 people here, they went crazy. Robin and Paul were here, and it was a dream come true to host and to have so many energetic people. And I just keep thinking about all these events that I've mentioned that you've seen over the last year and how I've gotten so much bigger and so many more people are coming out. The crowds are getting better. I can't wait to bring what I have in the future coming up. We've got Coyote Ugly, Empire Records, we've got Clueless, we've got I Know What You Did Last Summer, and The Faculty. We have some guests confirmed, some not confirmed. I'm continuing to work on them. So keep in touch on Facebook. Moviedude18 is my Facebook page. @Moviedude18 is my Twitter and my Instagram. Please follow me, shout out what you want to see, what films you want to see. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon.